We are taught that in 1492 the ocean stretched empty, and Columbus, the Genoese navigator, was the first to open the gateway to the New World. But long before the Spanish flag was planted in the Caribbean, a cold whisper circulated among the Norse sagas, tales of a much earlier journey. 5 centuries, a gap stretching between two civilizations, a gap that redefined history and challenged everything we believe about the chronology of exploration. The story begins in the icy expanse of Iceland and the harsh settlements of Greenland, where sailors, known as Vikings, steered their prows towards the unknown west. Our primary sources lie in 2 ancient texts, the Saga of Eric the Red and the Saga of the Greenlanders. These are records of heroic voyages, fraught with danger and the promise of new lands. The hero of this narrative was not a king or a conqueror, but the son of Eric the Red, Leif Erikson. He was the one prophesied to reach Vinland. Curiously, Leif did not discover Vinland. The story begins with Bjarni Herjolfsson, whose ship, blown off course, sighted forested land far to the west, yet refused to disembark. Leif Erikson, fueled by Bjarni's reports and Norse curiosity, purchased the ship and was determined to sail back to the strange land called Vinland. Leif's journey was split into 3 landfalls. The first was Helluland, the land of flat stones. This description perfectly matches the barren, rocky landscape of Canada's Baffin Island. Next, they sailed south until they reached Markland, the forest land. This land was rich in timber, a desperately needed resource back in the treeless settlements of Greenland. Finally, they arrived at Vinland, the Wineland. The description of Vinland, with abundant water and relatively mild winters, sounded almost like a fairy tale to the Norse. However, a few historians and explorers refused to accept this. They reasoned that if Vinland was real, traces of Norse architecture must still exist somewhere on the North American coastline. The search culminated in 1960, when the Norwegian explorer Helgi Ingstad and the archaeologist Anna Steen Ingstad embarked on a crucial expedition. They arrived at a remote cove on the northern tip of Newfoundland, Lance aux Meadows, a French-sounding name, yet holding a deep Norse secret. Local residents had long noticed strange geometric mounds beneath the sod. These mounds, they claimed, did not look like traditional indigenous structures. Local residents had long noticed strange geometric mounds beneath the sod. These mounds, they claimed, did not look like traditional indigenous structures. As the Ingstads began excavation, the layers of history began to peel back. They uncovered the remains of at least 8 structures, all built with distinctly Norse methods. The most striking evidence were the 3 longhouses, identical in scale to those found in Greenland and Iceland, constructed of turf and sod. The ultimate telltale discovery was a furnace for iron ore smelting. The Norse were the only known culture using this method in North America during that period. Then came the domestic proof, a soapstone spindle whorl. This simple tool was used exclusively by Norse women for weaving, unknown to indigenous cultures. Crucially,
a bronze cloak pin of the exact style used by the Vikings circa 10 AD. The pin could not have belonged to anyone else.
Radiocarbon dating confirmed the precision of the saga's timeline. Lance O. Meadows was established and utilized around 1000 AD, exactly 492 years before Columbus's voyage. Yet, Lance's Meadows was not a permanent colony. The evidence suggests it was a temporary base of operations, likely for ship repair and timber gathering. Lance O. Meadows was strategically located to control the sailing route from Greenland, providing access to the rich forest resources further south, which may have been the true Vinland. Even with this base, the question of the true Vinland is still debated. Was Vinland a region further south, where wild grapes actually grew? Leif returned to Greenland, but his brother, Thorvald, led a more ambitious expedition. Under his leadership, the Norse explored further south, searching for better settlement grounds. The sagas are unflinching, and they record a pivotal encounter, the clash with the indigenous people they called skrælings, a term meaning wretches. The technological and cultural disparity made conflict inevitable. Leif Erikson himself was the first recorded casualty of these clashes, killed by an indigenous arrow. The largest colonization attempt was led by Thorfinn Karlsefni, who tried to establish a lasting settlement, bringing livestock and families. A failed experiment. Despite their superior boats and iron weaponry, the Norse were always outnumbered. European populations were too distant, and support never came. After only a few years, the Viking expedition collapsed. They retreated back to Greenland, taking with them the stories and, perhaps, a small amount of traded lumber and furs. Why was such a promising Vinland abandoned? A combination of conflict with the skrælings, the overwhelming distance, and the chilling of temperatures, the Little Ice Age, in Greenland made their base unsustainable. After Vinland was abandoned, the North Atlantic world entered historical silence. The stories survived only as folklore, far removed from the Mediterranean-centric European memory. Nevertheless, sporadic records exist. German historian Adam of Bremen noted the existence of Vinland in 1075, based on accounts from the King of Denmark. It was only in 1960, when the archaeologist Spade hit bedrock in Newfoundland, that the truth of the sagas was lifted from the fog and put under scientific scrutiny. Today, Lance's Meadows is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is not just a site, but physical proof that demanded the rewriting of global history books. This discovery means that globalization did not begin with the Spanish voyages in 1492, but 5 centuries earlier with the wind-powered Norse longships. The Viking rediscovery forces us to redefine the term discovery. Is discovery a brief visit, or does it require lasting colonization impact? The distinction between Leif Erikson and Columbus lies in intent. The Vikings sought new resources and settlements. Columbus sought a route to Asia and gold. Although the Vikings failed to conquer, they succeeded in arriving. Their arrival was a historical anomaly, the first European encounter, later forgotten by Europe itself. The search for Vinland has not stopped.
Other potential sites along the Canadian and Maine coastlines are continuously being investigated, searching for more permanent Norse settlements. In 2016, claims of a new Viking site discovery at Point Rosy, Newfoundland, sparked excitement. However, further investigation revealed the mounds were merely natural phenomena. Meadows remains the sole proven and undeniable location. It is the juncture where Norse myth met archaeological stratigraphy. The evidence in Newfoundland speaks to the sheer resilience of the Vikings. They executed these transatlantic voyages with star navigation and sheer grit, lacking modern compasses. Though interactions were dominated by conflict, there is slight evidence of trade. Vikings exchanged red cloth for furs and hides, a limited exchange proving cross-cultural contact. As the American settlements failed, the Norse settlements in Greenland slowly died out as well. By the 15th century, contact with Europe ceased, ending the Norse era in the West. When Columbus arrived, the European world had changed. Driven by the Renaissance revival, new superpowers had the resources and the will for full-scale conquest, which the Vikings lacked. The Viking story in America is a reminder that history is often the narrative of the victor, not the complete truth. We must constantly dig beneath the surface to reveal past realities. Are there other sites? A few isolated artifacts, such as the Norse coin, the Maine penny, found in Maine, suggest the Vikings explored further than anticipated. Yet, even this coin is debated. Was it left by a Viking? Or did it travel south through the extensive indigenous trade networks? Because the Vikings built their structures from sod and wood, almost all their evidence decayed within 1,000 years, making Meadows a miracle of preservation. Crucially, the Viking story also intersects with indigenous folklore. The Mi'kmaq tribes have tales of white strangers arriving from the sea in strange boats. Imagine this sight, not a city, but a bridgehead, a final staging post of Europe before they retreated, a tiny window into an unfulfilled ambition. While they left no lasting colony, the Viking success lies in their exploration. They proved the North Atlantic transition was possible, hundreds of years early. Attention must also be paid to the infamous Vinland map. For decades thought to be visual proof, modern science has now confirmed it as a 20th century forgery. The fact that the oral sagas, written down hundreds of years after the events, could lead archaeologists to the exact geographical location is a historical marvel in itself. The irony is that the Vikings never grasped the long-term implications of their voyage. They were merely seeking better timber and pasture, not a global paradigm shift. The discovery of America was not a single event. It was a sequence of encounters. But the first, the deepest, and the most dramatic belongs to Leif Erikson. 500 years. That is the lead the Vikings held. The story of Meadows ensures we can no longer start the American narrative in 1492. Though their settlement is long gone, the spirit of the Norse sailors remains on the cold Newfoundland shore, reminding us of the fragility of our historical boundaries.
If you were inspired by this forgotten tale of exploration, share your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more untold historical secrets.